So, just been out today with my dad, looking at new cars. Anyway, and I've been preparing for a video, basically. I've got a load of books here that I've picked out. Going to do another video like that, and I've just been going through this one. I might have mentioned this one before. It's called The Four Agreements. Don Miguel Ruiz. Quite a small book, little kind of pocket book, you could say. But it's got a few nuggets in here, some sort of high-level concepts, and I found a part of it in the introduction that is worth discussing because it's about self-belief, or you could say self-worth. If you've ever let someone walk all over you, and you know, there's always times in our lives where we might feel low, particularly low. And you can feel low on a day-to-day basis, so you can have these kind of fluctuating temporary moments where you might feel low, and that might come in as a bit of low self-worth or a bit of low self-belief. I always find that if you're really tired, this is why getting good sleep is really important. If you're really tired, you wake up with sort of low energy, and that's where negative thoughts can start creeping in. So it's always important that you sleep really well, because that stops you getting tired, stops them sort of low energy thoughts coming in. And also, every day, making sure you remind yourself of some kind of positive affirmation, just to pick up your state, your mental state, because that's really important. So that's why I journal. Anyway, back to the topic. So in this book, The Four Agreements, the bit that I'm going to read to you, which really speaks very loudly about self-belief, is this. And I quote, no, he says, in your whole life, nobody has ever abused you more than you have abused yourself. And the limit of your self-abuse is exactly the limit that you will tolerate from someone else. Listen to this. If someone abuses you a little more than you abuse yourself, you'll probably walk away from that person. Very true. But if somebody abuses you a little less than you abuse yourself, you will probably stay in that relationship and tolerate it endlessly. Even if you abuse yourself very badly, you can even tolerate someone who beats you up, humiliates you, and treats you like dirt. Why? Because in your belief system you say, I deserve it. This person is doing me a favour. I'm not worthy of love and respect. I'm not good enough. That's very powerful, that. So if you think about that from a self-belief perspective. Hey, how are you doing, by the way? Thank you for joining in. Yeah, thanks for joining in. So I don't know if you caught that, but that little paragraph there, well, it's a couple of paragraphs. If you want to take a screenshot, there you go. You'll have to mirror it. Page 20 of the Four Agreements. So it says there that, you know, the notion of it is, if you abuse yourself badly, then you're more likely to tolerate bad abuse from someone else. And it says there, you know, you'll tolerate being beaten up, humiliated, treated like dirt. Very true, right? Yes, I'm British, yeah. Actually, in England, north of England, Manchester. Yeah. So being tolerated badly is because you know, if you abuse yourself, and it might not be that you get beaten up, but you do see these stories about these people going back to their abusers, and that's because terrible self-belief and almost abusing yourself. So you're tolerating this, and this is quite true. You know, you might not get beaten up, physically beaten up, but If you're in some kind of, an abusive relationship can be quite subtle, right? It can be as subtle as, say, you feel like you're always gaining for the other. You're always trying to get the other person's approval, right? You're always trying to get the other person's approval, and you're almost like you feel very weak in the relationship. And because you're trying to get the other person's approval, you might get some sort of taken advantage of and things like this. And it can lead to an abusive relationship. It can be verbal abuse. It can be withdrawal of affection, things like this. All sorts of things can happen. And if you've got very low self-confidence and self-belief, that can happen. But even the best of us can get ourselves in that situation. It very much depends on our mental state. This is why I always say that state management is so important, right? So if you wake up in the morning, this is why I always practice good state management. And obviously, when I journal, I write down a good affirmation about myself, because it's kind of reminding myself of who I am and what I'm about. And that's really powerful. There's so many ways that you can manage your state in the morning. Another way that Tony Robbins uses is state management. State management. He calls it priming. He primes his state, and that's like you can do this with your exercise, like physiology, jump around, that kind of thing. So this is why things like positive affirmations, positive self-talk are really important to manage your state, because you don't want to get yourself in a poor state. And these things can creep up on us. I've just been talking about self-belief there within the book. But these things can creep up on us over time. And once you get yourself into a situation where you're on the back foot in a relationship, that can just get worse and worse over time. So just remember that. And something else that I thought I'd talk about, as well as, if you've been walked over, just a reminder that the reason why you get walked over is quite often because you're treating yourself very badly. So that, if that other person treats you a little less badly than you're treating yourself, you'll tolerate it, even if it's very bad. But something else I want to talk about is quite often what leads to that is just carrying baggage. As we move through life, a lot of people carry baggage, whether that's like mental baggage, whatever happened in the past or whatever. And it's always good to, I don't know if you find, you tend to find this, the people that carry baggage also are hoarders. They carry shit in the house and that kind of thing. That's why I think having a damn good spring clean and a good clean out does you really good. And sometimes that's quite hard. So spring cleaning, cleaning out stuff, something I've personally struggled with, trying to throw things out. But it is important to remember to sort of not, we've also got to clean our minds of, negative thoughts about the past and things like this. And it needs maintaining so that we keep high self-belief, high self-worth. So, I've wrote down here actually, just Marcus Aurelius, in his book Meditations, something in there, he jokes about it with people. He says, with people whose abundance leaves their owner with no place to shit, he calls it. And what he's talking about there is, it's our need to clean house, basically, clean up after ourselves, whether that's our physical space and our mental space, to shed what's unnecessary, the things that don't serve us, So yeah, just a quick little live about that. I might just read it again for a final time, because if people are joining late. It's about self-belief, so I'll just read it for a final time. In your whole life, nobody has ever abused you more than you've abused yourself. And the limit of which you'll abuse yourself, and the limit of your self-abuse is exactly the limit that you will tolerate from someone else. If someone abuses you a little less more than you abuse yourself, sorry, if somebody abuses you a little more than you abuse yourself, you'll probably walk away from that person. But if somebody abuses you a little less than you abuse yourself, you'll probably stay in that relationship and tolerate it endlessly. If you abuse yourself very badly, you can even tolerate someone who beats you up, humiliates you, and treats you like dirt. Why? Because in your belief system you say, I deserve it. This person is doing me a favour by being with me. I'm not worthy of love and respect. I'm not good enough. Well, there you go. I think we all need to know what to do with that one. You know what I mean? Self-abuse comes from self-rejection, and self-rejection comes from having an image of what it means to be perfect and never measuring up to that ideal. That says a lot about state management and affirmations and things like this. Always very important. Every morning, just manage your state, affirmations, exercise, workout, put yourself in a positive frame of mind, so you've got positive state management. The other good one, obviously, like I said earlier, lack of sleep, right? You might notice this, but if you've had a bad night's sleep, it's always the bad night's sleep when you've got a poor state, where you just don't feel like it, you don't feel good. Lack of sleep really affects your mental state. So it's important to get good sleep. All right. Thank you for listening, and have a good day. See you all next time.